It's an accountability issue for the Department of Corrections so that they can be accountable to the community for where the people are at. So yeah, it's a hindrance for the clients though. They can't get jobs, they can't leave the house, they can't do any of the normal things, you know, everybody else does. The alarm goes off wherever they're at, and they have to stop doing what they're doing immediately to go take care of that resolution. So yeah, it's a hindrance for the clients. Every time one of my guys comes in and needs to go to one of my programmings, I have to let the parole officer know immediately that they need to stay out a little bit longer. So we have to spend a lot of time trying to make sure that they get where they need to be at certain times through an email. I have to do this all the time. So that's a big challenge. If they don't get back with me, then that person can't go out into the program. So if you get a job interview, I had a guy the other night that had an interview at 9:30 at night, and they had called him during the weekend, and he couldn't go out. They told him he could get in trouble and violated for going to the job interview because he was on the GPS and they hadn't notified him and authorized him to go out on that GPS. So it's always a problem with those if you got something that comes up. Immediately. If your girlfriend's pregnant, it's time to go to the hospital, you might not be able to go with her because if you don't get that authorization from probation, you're going to get arrested immediately. Quite a few people revoked, and we had to go get them out of the jail because they were. I had the email that said that they were out, you know, that they were authorized to be out, and the people at the tether place hadn't done what they were supposed to do. There was a fire one time. A bunch of my guys lived in a house that all had tethers, and the one guy that was trying to make sure he was doing everything right because he had to re-register at the at the police station because he was a sex offender. He got arrested for his tether going off for trying to go to the police station. So he got arrested and went to jail for the weekend. So yeah, I've had quite a few instances where, you know, that's happened where the monitor they came immediately, arrested that person. Well, they have a blanket policy, and that's the first problem. Make it a unique to each individual situation. I had a guy that was on the GPS when he got out for probably a year. And he did everything he was supposed to do because he was on that tether. And then as soon as they took off the tether, he violated. So it probably would have made more sense to keep him, you know, on the tether because he needed somebody to be accountable. But I have a guy that's been on one for 2 years that doesn't need to be accountable for, but because their policy, blanket policy, says that's the way it's going to be, then you have to do that. Instead of making a blanket, make it individualized for each person that comes through the door. Everybody's not the same. There's not one person that's the same that walks through the Department of Corrections door. Treat them as individuals and fit the situation to them, not to the crime, not to that. So that would be my first recommendations. Their own administrative rules say that parole conditions are supposed to be based on the individual, and they're not doing that because tether GPS is all based on parole conditions. So that's where that would be my first recommendation. You know. No, everyone that I know with parole is always on a curfew, 2, 3 o'clock for most of the people that I have in my office. So I have to get the authorization for them to be out at 6 or 7 o'clock if we have a meeting or a group or drug therapy or whatever is going on. You know, and they can't go to family events. They can't go to any of that different kind of stuff. They have to have authorization to be out, and if they don't, that GPS is going to go off. If they centralize it and have just, you know, one place where all the tethers are throughout the state, and that one person, a couple people monitoring what everybody's doing with these GPSs because they let you know immediately with everything that's going on, and leave the parole office out of that. Let the centralized do that. I think it would make it a lot easier on everybody to centralize this GPS system for the state. It takes up way too much time, way too much money. You could be doing better things like giving them programming and things that make a difference in making them successful. So they're spending all their money on the things that they shouldn't be spending the money on, and not putting it toward the stuff. Reentry just got cut 40% for the Department of Corrections. So now all the people that are currently, assigned to MPRI, they're losing housing, bus passes, all the different things that help them get on their feet. So now we're going to house all of our people in homeless shelters. There's no place for the GPS in a homeless shelter because there's not a landline for them people to do that. So now we're going to see all these different problems that we're going to have to spend our time researching and doing. They don't have anything in place to accommodate that. I mean, if you can't get a job, number one, just being a felon alone causes you not to be able to find a job just as easy. But if you're lucky enough to find that job, then you're going to have to give up that money to the GPS instead of taking care of your family. So, yeah, and then a lot of my clients not only have that, they have driver responsibility, they have child support, they have a whole lot of other debt that they owe the community. The one thing the probation office is a little better with, the parole office is a little better with, is the fees. They will waive those fees because it's something that they want them to be on. So I've seen where they don't have to pay for those GPSs. It's the bonds that have to pay the money if they want to stay out, or probation if they want to stay out.